People in history are lucky if they win a single war. Even the greatest names we study in school, Napoleon, Caesar, Hannibal, eventually met their match. They had their moments of glory, but they also tasted the bitterness of a crushing defeat. But then there are the anomalies, a handful of individuals who seem to have been born with the plot armor of a fictional protagonist. These are the men who stepped onto the battlefield dozens, sometimes hundreds of times, and never once walked away as the loser. They didn't just participate in history, they dictated it. We're talking about real-life main characters who played the game of empire on the hardest difficulty and finished with a perfect score. From the frozen steppes of Mongolia to the brutal heat of the Arabian desert, these 7 legends prove that sometimes one person really can be invincible. Let's dive into the lives of the 7 commanders who never lost a single war.
Number 1. Khalid ibn al-Walid. Imagine being so good at your job that your enemies literally think you're a god or a demon. Known as the Sword of Allah, Khalid is one of the very few military leaders in history who remained undefeated in over 50 pitched battles. He lived during the 7th century, a time when the world was dominated by 2 massive superpowers, the Byzantine Empire and the Sassanid Persian Empire. Khalid didn't just hold his own against them, he dismantled them both. What makes his story like a movie script is that he started out as an enemy of the very cause he would later lead. He actually handed the early Muslims a rare tactical defeat at the Battle of Uhud. But once he converted, he became their greatest weapon. His masterpiece was the Battle of Yarmouk. His forces were outnumbered nearly 4-1 by the elite Byzantine legions. Most generals would have retreated or played it safe. Not Khalid. He used his cavalry like a surgeon's scalpel, outmaneuvering the Romans until their own numbers became a disadvantage. By the time the dust settled, the Byzantine presence in Syria was gone forever. He died in bed, weeping, because he wanted to fall in battle, but he was simply too good for anyone to kill him.
Number 2. Subutai.
You might know Genghis Khan, but you need to know the man who actually won the wars for him. Subutai wasn't royalty. He was the son of a blacksmith who rose to become the primary strategist of the Mongol Empire. He directed more than 65 pitched battles and conquered 32 nations. He traveled more miles and conquered more territory than any other commander in human history. Think about that for a second. While most European kings were struggling to control a single forest, Subutai was coordinating simultaneous invasions across thousands of miles. His greatest flex? The Battle of the Khalkha River. He led a small expeditionary force into Russia and faced a massive coalition of princes. He feigned a retreat for 9 days straight, leading the exhausted Russians deeper and deeper into a trap. When they were finally too tired to swing a sword, Subutai turned around and annihilated them. He treated war like a game of chess, where he was the only one who knew the rules. He was the reason the Mongols reached the gates of Central Europe, and the only thing that stopped them wasn't an army. It was the death of the great Khan back home.
Number 3. Admiral Yi Sun-sin. Let's shift gears. Not every undefeated legend had a massive army at their back. Some, like Admiral Yi Sun-sin, had to do it while being actively sabotaged by their own government. In the late 16th century, Japan invaded Korea with a massive fleet and a veteran army. The Korean Navy was small, demoralized, and falling apart. Enter Yi Sun-sin. He had no formal naval training. He had never been on a ship in combat before the war started, and yet he went 23 for 23 in naval battles, never losing a single ship under his command. His secret weapon? The turtle ship, a literal floating ironclad fortress with spikes to prevent boarding and a dragon head that breathed smoke. But his real power was his mind. At the Battle of Myeongyang, he faced 133 Japanese warships with only 13 of his own. The odds were 10-1. He used the narrow straits and the treacherous treacherous tides of the Korean coast to bottle up the Japanese fleet, turning their numbers against him. He stood on the deck of his flagship, refusing to back down, and destroyed 31 Japanese ships without losing a single one of his own. He was the ultimate underdog who proved that a main character doesn't need a huge budget, just a brilliant plan.
Number 4. Jan Žižka. Have you ever heard of a general who won every battle while being completely blind? Meet Jan Žižka, the one-eyed, then no-eyed, hero of the Czech Hussite Wars. In the 15th century, the Pope launched multiple crusades against the Hussites. Žižka was essentially leading a band of peasants against the most heavily armored knights in Europe. To survive, he invented a completely new type of warfare, the Wagenburg. He took ordinary farm wagons, reinforced them with wood and iron, and turned them into mobile fortresses. When the knights charged, they were met with a wall of wagons and the world's first mass-produced gunpowder weapons. Even after losing his second eye to an arrow, Žižka continued to lead from the front. He would have his aides describe the terrain to him, and he'd visualize the battlefield in his mind. He never lost, not once. He was so feared that on his deathbed, he supposedly ordered his skin to be turned into a drum so that he could continue to lead his men into battle even after he was gone. That is next level commitment to the win streak.
Number 5. Scipio Africanus. Let's talk about the man who did the impossible. He beat Hannibal Barca. Scipio Africanus is often overshadowed by his rival, but he is arguably the greater general because, unlike Hannibal, Scipio never lost. He took command of the Roman forces in Spain when he was just 26 years old, after his father and uncle had been killed by the Carthaginians. He didn't just hold the line, he conquered the entire peninsula. Scipio was a student of war. He studied Hannibal's tactics and realized that to beat the master, he had to become better than the master. At the Battle of Zama, he faced Hannibal in the ultimate showdown. Hannibal brought 80 war elephants, the tanks of the ancient world. Scipio didn't panic. He opened gaps in his infantry lines, letting the elephants charge through harmlessly, and then used his cavalry to surround and crush the Carthaginian army. He saved Rome from its greatest threat and retired without a single defeat on his record.
Number 6. Paul von Lettow-Vorbeck. What if the war you're fighting is already lost by your country, but you personally just refuse to surrender? That was Paul von Lettow-Vorbeck, the Lion of Africa. During World War I, while Germany was being crushed in Europe, Lettow-Vorbeck was in East Africa with a tiny force of about 3,000 Germans and 11,000 local Askari soldiers.
Surprise!
For 4 years, he fought a guerrilla war against a British and Allied force that eventually grew to 300,000 men. They threw everything they had at him. They tried to corner him, starve him out, and trap him. He just kept winning. He lived off the land, outmarched his pursuers, and won every engagement he entered. He was the only German commander to successfully invade British territory during the war. In fact, he only stopped fighting because the war in Europe ended. He was technically undefeated on the battlefield when he finally laid down his arms. When he returned to Germany, he was the only general to lead a victory parade through the Brandenburg Gate, despite his country having lost the war.
Number 7. Alexander the Great. Between the ages of 18 and 32, Alexander conquered the largest empire the world had ever seen, stretching from Greece to India. He fought in dozens of sieges and 4 massive pitched battles against the Persian Empire, which was the superpower of the day. He was always at the front of the charge, always leading his companion cavalry into the thick of the fight. At Gaugamela, he faced a Persian army that was significantly larger than his own, on a field specifically leveled to give the Persian chariots an advantage. Alexander didn't care. He spotted a tiny gap in the Persian line, charged straight for King Darius, and broke the heart of the empire in a single afternoon. He died at 32, not from a sword, but from illness, leaving behind a world that would be shaped by his culture for 1,000 years. He was the man who wanted to reach the end of the world, and honestly, if he had lived another 10 years, he probably would have done it.
These 7 men were more than just lucky. They were masters of psychology, innovation, and sheer willpower. They didn't just win, they refused the very possibility of losing. Whether it was Khalid's tactical genius, Yi Sun-sin's resilience, or Subutai's grand strategy, they all shared one trait: the ability to see a path to victory where everyone else saw certain death. So, which of these main characters do you think had the most impressive run? Was it the blind general who fought with wagons, or the admiral who won 13 to 133? Let me know in the comments. And if you enjoyed this journey through history's greatest win streaks, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the legends who built our world. Until next time, stay curious.